Alright, so I am going to make beef and noodles, and I got my eggs from the food pantry. The date on the carton says October 22nd. That is probably wrong. But what I want to do is see if that egg floats. And no, not really. I mean, it's still fine. But it's getting there. It's not laying completely like this. So that much is done. So we know the egg is good. And this will become a grease container. And beef and noodles is uses the same egg recipe or egg noodle recipe that I used the other day. But the difference is we're going to add beef and beef broth and make them a little bit fancier. But the first thing I want to do is I want to start boiling some beef. So I washed my skillet. We hope it's clean. Ouch. And we really need to stop touching it. Yep, I think this is clean. So we're going to do this. Put a little bit of water in here. It's not necessary, but I'm also going to put some beef broth in there. And I got the beef broth from the food pantry. So I'm going to get that. So this is beef broth from Kroger's. The date is February 27, 2025. Hey, right about the time Kindle Vella will expire. So this is the beef broth that I'm going to use for the beef and noodles. This is what I got from the food pantry. So, like with all things, I am going to, actually, I'm going to look at this before we actually use it. So I'm going to use my skillet to test this beef broth. Container's a little dented, but I think it's okay. It is a self-cutting thing. When I first saw this, I was used to the ones where you opened it up and you pulled the little tab. Well, they don't do that anymore. They're self-cutting. When you turn it, it breaks and it cuts the thing. So if you open your beef broth and it looks like this, it's probably fine. So I'm going to pour this beef broth into my skillet as soon as I check it one more time to make sure it's clean. Paranoid about that. And then you'll notice my stove is clean. I clean everything obsessively but my stove. Alright, so we're going to look at this beef broth. Actually, it looks really, really good. It smells good. I don't see anything wrong with it. Looks good, smells good. I don't have really any way to taste it. Let me see here. And my food pantry doesn't always have broth, so I lucked out. Let's see. Tastes good. Alright, so I'm going to move this over to the stove. And I think it's fine. I'll show you what it looks like. I believe this beef broth is fine. Looks good. And now I'm going to put some beef in it. So I want to put, maybe 6 ounces of beef out of that beef I cut up. And we just want to slap it on the table a little bit, break it apart. And we want to do maybe 5 or 6 ounces of this beef. And maybe not do it next to the spaghetti that I have not put up yet. 2 ounces. Okay, so just about 5 ounces of beef is going to go in here. And this is what it looks like. If you can see it. There's my 5 ounces of beef. So we got that. The egg is for the egg noodles, and it'll be a minute before I get to it. That egg will be fine. So I went and cleaned the bathroom and took a shower while this cooked. And as you can see, the beef is doing pretty good. So now it's time to make the noodles. So it is time to make the noodles. I have sterilized the counter, and I thought I was recording while I did it, but apparently not. So it is, I'm going to go ahead and make the noodles. It's very similar to what I did the other day. 1 egg, flour, and a little bit of milk. The difference here is that the eggs, the flour, and the milk all came from the food pantry. So I'm going to turn this on, and we want 12 ounces of flour. You know what I want to do before I do that? Crack the egg. All right. Because the egg came from the food pantry, I already tested it, but you know, you never can be too careful. How do I crack? Tell you what. I'm going to dry this egg off. And I need to try and crack it with something. Since we don't know if it's good, I can't crack it using the skillet, so I got to do something else. So I guess this knife will have to do. Because we want to look at it, smell it. I'm not eating a raw egg, so I guess it's okay. It doesn't smell bad, but it's definitely near the end. It's the only thing I don't like about food pantry eggs. You never know how they are. Makes it very difficult to deal with them. Because the dates on the packages are wrong, because they often get them in and then repackage them. Well, let's see here. We want, I guess it's not going to be 12 ounces. It's going to be 120 grams. So I guess we'll just stick with that, because that's all that's going to fit in here. There we go. 120 grams and a little bit of salt, just like last time. And a little bit of milk, just like last time, except this is a different milk. It's probably more milk than I wanted to put in there, but that's okay. So all of this so far has come from the food pantry to make the eggs. Everything but the salt came from the food pantry. The flour did, the milk did, the egg did. And I bought the salt at Dollar General for $1. So it was Dollar General sells that for $1. So I am going to mix my eggs. Guess I better mix them up here. Or I'm going to mix my egg noodles. I want to move the camera down. Move this down. So we're going to put this down here and stir it up, or finish mixing it. And you always want to put some flour down so that your dough doesn't stick to your work surface. But all of this for the egg noodles at this time around came from the food pantry. So it is possible to make stuff out of food pantry stuff entirely. These egg noodles are an example. Now the beef I bought at the grocery store, and it was on sale. I don't know how on sale it was because I usually don't buy their sirloin. But right now all I'm doing is flattening out my egg noodles because they're done. And if I had a glass or something like that, I could use a glass to flatten these. And you can make them as thin or as thick as you want. You just want to press them out until they're pretty flat. But this is a nice, real cheap dinner. The little bag of flour that I've got was only about $1.30, and I've done a lot with that, and I still have some of it. But since it's newer than all of this stuff that I've got, okay, now I need my knife, and I'm going to go ahead and cut these. So, make sure it's all pressed out. If I had a rolling pin, I could get these a lot thinner, but, it really doesn't matter. So, we got this, and I'm going to fold them over, like I did before, and I'm just going to cut them. So this is just scrap. And you can make them as thin or as thick as you like. I'm going to make these fairly thin. They get bigger when you put them in the water or broth. I have broth this time. And I'm making these fairly thin. And that's junk. All right, so once you get them, you unroll them. And these are just a little bit thinner than I made the other day. Now, some people like to dry them for a couple hours, and you can do that if you want. It's not necessary. All you really need is a hot pan of water or broth. And you can use any kind of broth you like. I just happen to be making beef and noodles, so I'm using beef broth. And when it's all said and done, the only thing I will have bought for this particular meal are the spices and the beef. The stuff to make the noodles and the broth, that all came from the food pantry. So now I am going to toss these into the pan. And you can leave them this long or you can break them in half. A lot of times I just pull them in half, just to make them a little shorter. Kind of makes them easier to eat. And that's that. So now I've got a nice pan of beef and noodles cooking. I gotta get this under some water pretty quick, or it's gonna be awful. Now, to clean this up, you don't want to get it wet right away. You want to try and get as much of this off as you can with a dry paper towel. Because if you get it wet, it turns into dough. So you want to do that first. And I'm going to do this with paper towels because it's going to turn into dough. So, just got a wet paper towel here. I've already done laundry, so I don't have to worry about that, but alright, it's going to be tough. So I'm going to get this. So I've got a little blue guy here that I was doing something else with. But we're going to do this. So, okay. Like I said, I'm obsessive about keeping everything clean but that stove. So, there we go. And I need to clean up my scale. All right, that's done. So I'm going to put a few spices in here, some pepper and garlic and onion powder. And I'm just going to show it to you. So here's this, and it just needs to simmer for a little bit. It is already 5:30. It's not going to simmer for too long because I'm starving, but it needs to simmer until the noodles are cooked. So here's my beef and noodles. It is done. And there's my bowl of beef and noodles. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will talk to you later.